Hello and welcome to another thing where we talk about stuff. I'm Jenine Lillian. I'm actually autistic and I'm a neurodiversity consultant and educator. You might have seen some other interviews with real live neurodivergent adults on my YouTube channel, and I am so happy to be doing that today with my buddy Spencer. We are going to talk about all kinds of good stuff, but first I thought I would introduce myself and then pass it to Spencer to introduce himself in the same vein. We were just talking before we started recording about how creativity and neurodiversity really work together to make us awesome, basically. And that I personally feel like my problem solving and my resiliency and my artistic creativity and sort of the different ways I look at all the things are really tied to and seated in both the core of me and my neurodivergent mind. And so to me, I consider these all very positive aspects, even though sometimes in the world, in society, in the workplace, in school, I had trouble translating that or getting positive messages for others about those things. They still are on their own positive assets and beautiful things about my life that I get to have because of the way that my mind works. So over to Spencer.
Hello again. I'm Spencer, he, him. Um, it's always the biggest question of, where do you even start with everything?
Mhm.
I'm author, illustrator, researcher, academic, musician. I could keep going down the list of
We
all the
got time.
things.
Go ahead. We got
Yeah,
time.
exactly. I find that I am a creative at heart, and just by second nature, I've always been that way. Also late diagnosed autistic, and I have suspicions probably ADHD as well, but I don't have a a diagnosis for that. And yeah, my brain is far from a one-track mind, but I find that being a creative just allows me to keep going and allows me to feel, sane, both as an individual and in this day and age.
Totally, totally. And knowing you a little bit as I do, I would say not second nature, but very much first nature
Yes.
is your creativity and having lots of different projects. And also, you don't have to be any particular age or have any particular diagnosis in order
Hmm.
to really encounter a lot of struggle, a lot of feeling alien and misunderstood, or just like you can't quite get things to translate or get your message across, even if you're not even saying anything. I definitely have that experience time and time again. And I'm just so glad that you're here with me today, Spencer, because I know we've both been looking forward to this
Yeah,
since
absolutely.
since the beginning of time,
Yes.
really. Um, so one of the wonderful things about being neurodivergent is that when we find more people in our community and we find our tribes, we learn how much these various intersectionalities really play a part in a very complex community and worldview, and even on the individual level. And so I wanted to invite Spencer to talk with us a bit today about his journey and all of these sort of different layers that are and are not the who he is. Whereas, like, I like to describe it as, the me of me isn't an anxious, depressed, autistic person. It's not even a person, really. so learning a little bit about the you of you, Spencer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess as a my secondary introduction is that I am Asian American. I currently live in British Columbia, but I am originally from California, was born and raised in Southern California. That is, everything I've ever known until I moved here. And I guess I lived in San Francisco as well, but Asian American, mixed race. I'm also queer and trans, and list goes on and on as it always does. But I think, yeah, exactly. I It's always funny having to explain that to people because I'm sure they have like one or two things. It's like I am this and this, and then that sounds so simple. It sounds so easy, but I mean, being both queer and trans is one thing, being autistic and something else is another thing, and then being a combination of all of those,
Yeah.
it's like, if I take I can't separate any single part of my identity because then that's just not who I am. Like I cease to exist if I separate myself like that.
Yeah,
It's
nor
like
should you, right? I mean,
yeah,
we are
it's like
both
a bunch of
whole and
just
complex beings.
exactly. But yeah, I guess like my experience is being all of those things and also I'm not sure what it is here in Canada, but I know in the US that, people that were assigned female at birth, we weren't getting diagnosed as autistic until I think the DSM changed in 2008. It might have
Hmm.
been later than that, but I was I was already in, you know, I was already starting to get older at that point. So like we kind of skipped over that developmental stage that
Hmm.
like typically cis boys or people assigned male at birth, they a lot of them got diagnosed when they were younger.
Yep.
So like growing up feeling like, oh, my family, it was always like, oh, you're just quirky. It's like, well, that's one way of putting it. I didn't feel quirky. I felt weird, but
Yeah, there's that. Depends on who's in your company at the time, right?
yes,
You're
exactly.
either awesome and a special unicorn or you're difficult and a problem, right? Like
Yes, and I
there's
was
kind of no in
definitely the latter.
between. Yep.
Yeah, but like I guess the intersectionality part of that just being, I went to really big high schools, or not high schools. I went to one high school. I went to big schools being from, San Diego County,
Yeah.
which is a very large population. And, being like the only one at the time that felt the way that I did and feeling so isolated and really getting zero support from my peers and my teachers, the people that are supposed to be, your protectors, your guardians, your educators, your leaders, but kind of being treated like, an outsider, being treated like a freak. I don't like to use that word, but you know, that's how we
Yeah.
feel about that sometimes. And unfortunately, that did also shape a lot of my identity and how I've learned to survive in the world, with
Sure.
all of these things that make up my identity. Um, but eventually, starting to realize more and more, like, actually, I'm not the crazy one. I'm being myself, and
Yes.
I'm dedicated to being a good person and teaching other people that it's possible to be a good person. And I think that's really what has driven me my entire life. My mom would probably say, I've always marched to the beat of my own drum, even if other people have not necessarily. It's the like, what do we call it in the music world? Like, it's like tone deaf, but specifically with rhythm. It's like if you don't have no sense of rhythm.
I love how just completely supportive your mom is. Like,
She's come
I
a long
wish your
way.
mom was like all of our moms. Like, just
Yeah.
as soon as I started hearing even just a little taste of that, I was like, oh, I mean, it is hard slash impossible, and all of us are navigating the time and the
Hmm.
place and the ethnicity and the family
Yeah.
and the caste level that we're at really, and in the country. Like I'm dual citizen, so I know what it feels like to be me in the
Hmm.
US in various decades, because for the record, I'm going to be 53 in less than a month, and so I'm a bit older than Spencer, just a lot older. Um, but not being seen for who I was, but being told again and again in a variety of ways that I had to be different and I had to try harder. And that even when I started thinking like, hey, I think I might be autistic, just getting
Hmm.
this flood of, you don't look autistic, you can make eye contact, you can talk to people, you're female, like none
Yeah.
of
It's
these
like, but you
things
taught me.
exclude me from the club.
Yeah, you forced us
Um,
to be able to do that.
Exactly, exactly. And so, part of this work that I'm doing right now, like you're experiencing a persona that I have crafted and created without the aid of ChatGPT for
Hmm.
decades. And
Hmm.
I use this so that I can communicate and help others understand and elevate the experience for all of us. That's my goal. And so, I think it's much more valuable to hear from various folks and not just me all the time. So that's why I wanted to do this series. And, Spencer, having you have all of these different intersectionalities is just so valuable, because I don't doubt that there's more than just one person who's going to see this and go, "Oh, I have lots of things too." And it does seem like other people have like a very short list. And then at the same time, like none of those things are the you of you, right? Like
Hmm.
they're all the you of you, and then none of them are the you of you. So it's interesting to me how once we start being more accepting and understanding of ourselves, we can kind of see that in other people. You see somebody who's really critical and negative, and you go, gosh, it must be really hard inside their mind. And I've had moments like that. I have days, like years like that. And so, having that empathy and compassion. And I love how you said you've been dedicated to being a good person. And one of my things is like, I want to help people to feel more positive about their neurodivergent mind and all the different gifts and even the resiliency, right? We have had to overcome multiple barriers and we're not done, right? So it makes us resilient. It makes us more creative problem solvers and innovators. And of course, then we have ideas and we want to work on projects to express those discoveries. So I just find it super inspirational to connect with you. And I'm so glad that you're here sharing with whoever's going to see this, wherever they are in the world at whatever time. Who knows what's happening, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's like my inspiration, I guess, on going into the project world. I have been doing comics and animations and just writings about mental health for a very long time. Actually, probably even before I was diagnosed as well. Just, sending them out into the void in hopes that it reaches somebody. And I've actually heard surprisingly from people, friends of friends or family members of friends, complete strangers, like, oh, this actually meant a lot to me. And, it doesn't happen very often because I don't post as much as I probably should, but, life happens. But
Yeah.
like even just getting those messages of like, hey, by the way, my cousin or my sibling found your channel and really like what you said really meant a lot to them. And it's that like I'm very grateful to be able to do that for people. I've had a lot of people in my life, going through a lot of things at the time. And I guess for me, I've always been the visible one. I was maybe invisible when I was younger, but
Mhm.
I very quickly became a target in a lot of different ways. I mean, I grew up in extremely, mostly white and Hispanic communities, around a lot of white and Hispanic people. So not many Asians, definitely not many queer and trans people. I was the only person at my high school at the time. There's a lot
Yeah.
more now, I will say that. But,
Yeah.
that
We
being,
come after the folks who did what they
yes,
could while they were there, and then we
yep,
do our part, and then the people come after us. I mean, it's just constantly we are
exactly.
making progress. But
Exactly.
yeah,
And
it's
that
yeah.
visibility is exactly what inspires people to look inwards and think about like, okay, who am I? What do I want and what do I need and where do I want to go? Like where have I been? Where do I want to go?
Yep.
And just being in that position. I wanted to share a quick example
Please.
as well in terms of the like, the you of you. So for me, being mixed race, I'm Thai on my dad's side and white on my mom's side, but the world sees me as Asian. I don't think anybody's going to look at me and be like, that's a white guy. At least my experiences have not been that my entire life, but um, that was something that my mom in the past couple of years actually came to terms with of like, I just see you as my kids, but the
Yeah.
world sees you differently. And, she's grown a lot. I will say we definitely had a bit of a rough relationship growing up, but, me coming to terms with a lot of things about myself
Yeah.
and having those really tough conversations and going through our own transitions and, all of these difficult things that we had to deal with, we actually have a much stronger relationship now. And, she has grown a lot as a human being and starts to advocate for people that aren't me. Like that to me is the sign that somebody is finally
Yeah.
growing. But in regards to being mixed race, I could say, I'm half Thai, half white, but I'm not. This is a thing with a lot of other mixed folks. It's like I'm not Asian enough in Asia. Like I haven't been to Asia, but if I go to Asia, they're gonna see
Yeah.
me as, Western. They're gonna see me as American or Canadian or whatever.
Right.
But in America, I am Asian. Like I'm too much and not enough of both of them. So it's that weird middle ground of like, okay, so where I am just something completely different. I'm more than the sum of my parts, to put
Yes.
it that way.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like, who makes these rules? And they're so arbitrary and they
Yeah.
persist. I just don't understand how they persist. Like
Hmm.
that's part of what we want to do with this too. Is like, hey, it's not just having that visibility, like, oh, there's something that Spencer said that I'm really like, oh, that resonates with me. I think that might be sort of part of my intersectionalities as well. Or Jenine said something, and it's like, or I know someone, it seems like this would be where they would describe themselves. And then, like, the further step of that is if you disagree vehemently with us, like, also look at, like, oh, what is the me of me? What is the mask I wear? Because we all wear all the masks, y'all, and you don't have to be neurodivergent to do that, right? Like, there's this pervasive situation in all the cultures of the world, basically, where we're not able to be authentically ourselves and be out and proud about that. And that's one thing, Spencer, you and your partner are just so inspirational to me, because I'm just like, oh my God, they're so happy and cute. They're so adorable, you guys. And like out and proud and welcoming people in the community and at the university and at organizations. Like, I just am like, oh man, this is what we didn't have anything like when I was young. And this is game changing. And it's not just game changing for the people who are benefiting from what you're doing. I think it's game changing for those of us who do the advocacy, because we're like, hey, you know what? Like, I am fortunate enough to live in a time and a place where I can have this hair. And, do people still give me crap about it? Sure. But not the kind of crap that I would have gotten historically, but I can be doing this work, and I can have these conversations, and I can use myself as an example so that I don't put people in the hot seat, right? But I do encourage folks to put themselves in the hot seat, and like you said, to have those difficult conversations, because I think in North America, especially, we shy away from anything that feels like it's going to be a difficult conversation. But what people who really avoid those don't understand is that there's so much love and caring and depth and understanding and growth behind that. Like you're saying, like with your mom. And, that's really what we want to get through. You and I, we don't want to spend our lives fighting. We want to spend our time like hugging it out or having a silent dance party or, being surrounded by kittens. So, we got other stuff we want to do, but we're doing this because this is what our place for now, right? Um, Gosh, I could talk to you forever and ever, and I just can't wait for us to do a follow-up. But I want to ask you, Spencer, first of all, thank you so much for sharing just so much in a short amount of time of just the depth and complexity of where you navigate the world from. And I love how you phrase that. It's just beautiful. I wanted to know if you have any words of encouragement for anyone who might have identified with what you said today or part of your experience, if anything comes to mind.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier actually. I would say something that's really helped me, at least in a lot of my creative work, is just sit down with those parts of yourself. And, I think we all have those deep insecurities and fears and, traumas that we've been through. But something that's really helped me is it sounds kind of funny to like personify them. And I know that's a common thing with DID systems. But for me, it's I know where those fears are coming from. I might be afraid that, like maybe I'm afraid that I'm going to be abandoned again, or I'm going to be hurt by people that should have protected me, or not have protected me, but should have loved me, that should have been there and respected me. But sitting down and realizing like those fears are from a different point in my life, and it's my job to, how do I word it? It's my job to reassure him that that's not where we are now.
Yeah.
Um, like I know for me, something that I've done a lot of is it's those conversations with your younger self.
Hmm.
I know how much he's been through and the hardship and heartbreak that he has
Yeah.
experienced, but I'm not that person anymore. But I think
Mhm.
it's we we have the responsibility and we have the knowledge and resources and life experience to be able to comfort them and say like it's possible to grow. It's possible to, I don't like to say get better because that
Yeah,
implies
no, we're
that
not. Yeah,
yeah,
I feel
but
you.
when I can think of a better phrase, I will use a better phrase.
Well, to
We can
nurture our
improve.
past
Yeah.
selves, right? And to provide that sort of scaffolding where we can recognize, like, and
Hmm.
to reach out for help with this, y'all. Like, we're not talking that you have to do this all on your own, right? Like, there's many trusted sources, and all of us, even if we feel alone, we're never really alone. We have people who love and celebrate us how we are. And even if those people have passed away, I think it's so fruitful to kind of call upon these cheerleaders that have come through our lives to help with this work, you know. And one of the things, Spencer, that you reminded me of is I've struggled with anxiety and depression my whole life and definitely got a lot of support and help with that. But in the times when I was really struggling and really feeling like I needed to deal with it on my own, which is not a good strategy,
Hmm.
um, I would take my depression for a walk, or I would like
Hmm.
go sit and look at the lake. And I would imagine that my depression was sitting on the bench next to me. So
Hmm.
trying to treat it more like a friend, like I don't, you know, maybe a friend that I'm having an argument with.
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely a friend
More,
though.
you know, it's like I know I recognize that I need to do this for my mental health, and my depression is telling me no, you don't, and you don't have the energy and you can't possibly make it, you know. And so it's like, okay, well then we're going together.
Hmm.
And that was actually like really helpful to me. It came to mind when you were describing that sort of self-nurturing, um, and yes, you do have a lot of evidence that that is not the same place, like that's not your
Hmm.
reality anymore. I really appreciate that. It's so wise and wonderful for you to share. Last but not least, what next steps would you like folks to take after listening or watching your interview today?
Yeah, I mean that's always the question of, what now? Where do I go next? I would say just, other than, sitting with yourself and talking through those things like, I guess going back to that really quick, like for me, it's the being the friend that I didn't get to have growing up. So I'd say identify the people in your circle that you trust to be able to talk to about these things.
Mhm.
And if there isn't anybody, there are people that are specialists in this that have the experiences that you have. I am learning more and more with each passing day. I don't have any unique experiences. I'll say something and, most people will be like, that's crazy. But then I'll say it in the right circle and people will be like, oh my God, I can't believe somebody else experienced that. Like,
Yes. Yes.
apparently I am I have so many experiences that other people have that I just had no idea
You do. And
about.
how would you know that about yourself? And how would
Hmm.
anyone who's encountering this know that about themselves unless we stand up and say, hey, guess what? This is the more truth of what is going on for me. And like, yeah, we need that representation and those voices. And, you know, there's so much misinformation and so many
Hmm.
myths about almost any of the intersectionalities that we've talked about today that there's just so much opportunity to distance ourselves from ourselves and each other
Hmm.
around any one of them. And so, especially when you get a bunch of them at a table, it's kind of like, you know, there might be a feeling of that's too much. And one thing
Hmm.
I wanted to say too, because I have a suspicion, you can tell me if it's accurate or not, Spencer, that those same people in your circle of care that you trust to talk about the really hard shit are also the people that you experience ridiculous joy with, and that you can be super silly, and
Hmm.
just that you get a chance in that circle of care to just be vibrantly yourself in all of these
Hmm.
different ways. And I just that is such a wonderful thing to me. You know, it doesn't matter if it's one person or if they were there for 5 minutes, it happens and it'll happen again. And I'm just so thankful that you have that and that now we're in the same circle. I just really appreciate all that you are and all that you share. And I love that you are sharing the voices and perspectives of your lived experience with the world because boy, does it matter. So thank you so much for sharing even just this slice of your journey, which I feel is so profound. And I know we're going to get folks commenting about it. I will put some information about how to contact me. And if you send me a message, I will also share it with Spencer. And I'll put Spencer's info in the liner notes if he lets me. So
Yes.
thank you so much for being here today. And
Thanks for having me.
anyone who's listening or watching or reading the transcript, just thank you for being who you are. And I strongly encourage you to come out about the truth of your life, what it's like in your mind to at least one person. And that person doesn't have to be your parent or your partner. It could be a paid professional or a clinician. But I find that just taking that step of saying, like, hey, this is what it's really like for me, whether it's wonderful or terrible or some muddy mix of both, come out about the truth of your life to at least one person. And I promise that taking that step will help heal and help you plan for the future. Thank you so much for being here.